Cooper, your host on Change Your Voice, Change Your Life, subtitled The Voice Doctor, The Facts Don't Matter. Is that true? The facts don't matter? Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor of California, tells us that the facts don't matter. The people want action. Action. They want action. I love the accent. I love the energy the governor brings to the office. But it reminds me of what goes on in a field called voice rehabilitation. There are people who can't talk. They literally cannot talk. They have a strangled voice. We like action. We like Superman. We like Bugs Bunny. We like a lot of things. We like the stories about Count Dracula. I'm Count Dracula. But they're very serious things in life, aside from the fictions that we see on the screen which entertain us. And why not? There's so much in the world that doesn't make sense to us, or if we try to make sense of it, it's not going to be there. The problem that we have in an area such as I practice in, it's called voice rehabilitation. You can suffer a bad voice after a stroke. You can't express yourself. It's called a word salad. People don't realize what can happen as they go through life. Sherwin Newland, a doctor at Harvard, wrote a book, How We Die. There's another aspect to what goes on, how we kill our voices literally in our society and don't have a clue as to why it's happening. Join with me and let me explain a bit about what may be happening to you and you don't know it. When you get a voice problem, you believe that the person treating you, the physician or the speech or voice clinician, has a fix on what your problem is. That may not be true because the field I'm in doesn't have much training in clinical voice help. The top people in the field say that, they write it, and it's been true for many, many years. So if you have a voice problem, whether it's a bad or raspy voice or a strangled voice, you're talking like this, and you go to a physician in the best of intentions, the physician may put you on pills, may tell you to do this and that, but they're medicalizing your voice, which means that they're not treating the problem basically, because most voice problems are not due to a medical cause. It's due to voice misuse or incorrect voice use. I've written extensively about it, but the issue is that you go to a medical doctor, and well, you should, because you're looking for those people in the medical field to give you the direction and tell you what you should be doing. Unfortunately, they're not trained to tell you what to do. They don't listen to your voices. Literally, they do not listen to your voices. They're not trained to listen. It's a negative because they're looking at vocal cords. If you're seeing a specialist called an otolaryngologist or ear, nose, and throat doctor, and they're putting a video stroboscopy down or looking with a laryngeal mirror, but they're not listening to your voices or your voice. How could that be? Because they're not trained to do that. They're trained to look at vocal cords, and they're trained to inject into the vocal cords or cut out whatever is on the vocal cords, but not understand that the growths they're cutting out are basically due to the fact that you're talking wrong. Now, how could that be? How could you be talking wrong? You say, you just open your mouth and you talk, and that's the way you are. That's not true. Arnold said it another way. The facts don't matter. The people want action. You want action. You want to go to your doctor and you want something done to you. You want a quick fix. There's nothing wrong with that. Nearly everybody wants that, and I do too. It's only one problem. The quick fix may not be right for you. How do you know it's not right? Your voice is not getting better. If you talk like this and you go to your doctor and you tell the doctor, man or woman or whatever else, and you have this problem, you got it after a cold, they're going to medicalize you. And well, they should, because they're looking to deal with a medical problem or a disease or something neurological or organic. But the basic overriding problem of bad, raspy, strangled voices is that they're due to incorrect use of the voice. Join with me. When you wake up in the morning, you may have a very low-pitched voice, and you like that voice because the society, the culture we're in, says that's in. So you talk like this. You sound like Henry Kissinger without the accent. Henry loves that low-pitched voice, and well, he should. It's like Greenspan, who the facts of the matter, and he talks like this. He's gone now, and there's another voice in his place. That voice has created some anxiety, and the stock market has blown its cover. The problem is that Greenspan could make statements, and they were mysterious, arcane, so you couldn't understand. The stock market was basically not affected. The new chairman of the Federal Reserve Board says it plainly, and you can understand what he's saying, and there's no cover-up. So the stock market is riled and is in a little bit of a bumpy road, if not a little chaos there. Why am I telling you this? Because in my field, the treatment of voices, if you read the medical literature, or if you read the academicians, people in my field, you will get the feeling that voice problems are very difficult to treat, and that if you have a voice problem, you're in deep doo-doo, as Senior George, former President Bush, mentioned, deep doo-doo. That's not true. There are very simple ways to help you to get a better, more effective voice, but you don't know that. So what you do is you take pills, you take shots, and you may have a surgery because your doctor, having gone to a GP, general practitioner, and then to a specialist because your general practitioner is not working for you, is trying to help you. You may keep doing that to your nose. You have a runny nose. You may have a problem with resonance. You feel tension down here. It's all like that. You may be talking too high, too low. You don't have a clue, basically, because you've never had lesson one, and why should you have lesson one on the speaking voice? Everybody knows you just open your mouth and that's it, isn't it? Well, if you listen to voices like that, and you listen to voices like that, you hear Bugs Bunny all over the dial. Just open your ears, tune into TV or radio, and you're listening to Bugs Bunny. And it's not Bugs Bunny talking, it's some person. They specialize in an expression which, if you listen, you tune in, you'll hear it from the best of people in our society. Bill Keller uses "you know," as David Halberstam does too. You know, you know, you know, you know. And they also add, I mean, and that's true of Paul Steiger, who is the editor of the Wall Street Journal, and Anderson Cooper of CNN. When they're unscripted, they abound with you knows and I means. The best, it's across the dial. I could pass that. I could accept that. But I don't know about you. If you remember, Andy Rooney had the voice right through his schnoz. He's modified that. And Andrea Mitchell, who is the wife of Alan Greenspan, used to talk with that nasal sound. I mentioned that nationally, and apparently she got the message and took some help. So she doesn't sound like that. She has a much better voice. Thank you, Andrea. You do sound very listenable now. There are all too many people who don't sound listenable. The reason for that is they don't listen to themselves. They don't monitor themselves until they're played back on a tape machine, and that's the moment of truth. All heck breaks loose. Now let me tell you a few other stories about what's going on. The facts don't matter, Arnold says. The facts don't matter. The people who want action, they do. Join with me. They want action because action is what they're taught to get. In other words, do me, the do me philosophy. We're all do me's, aren't we? We want something done to us. We want something done now. and we want to get rid of whatever problem we have now, if not before, and we want it done immediately. Today is too late already. You should have been helped before, isn't that right? So the governor is right. The facts don't matter. The people want action. He really summarized it. The people want action. There is a story about Ignaz Semmelweis, who lived over 100 years ago, well over 100 years ago. And Semmelweis was in Vienna. He was a young physician. The death rate for women delivering was approximately 19 point something, horrendous. Your chances of dying in delivery with the best of physicians in 1845 was horrendous. It was said you could be safer delivering on the streets of Vienna than in the best of hospitals. Ignaz Semmelweis, young, noticed that the physicians were not washing their hands after they did autopsies. In those times they did autopsies just before they were delivering for women. Isn't that interesting? The problem was they ignored the findings of Ignaz Semmelweis in 1845, in 1846, 1847, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, and on. Semmelweis tried to get them to wash their hands. He had reported that when the physicians did wash their hands, the death rate, the fatality rate for birth deliveries had reduced markedly. But they didn't believe Semmelweis, and so what happened? The facts didn't matter. The people want action. The physicians wanted to do what they were doing, and they did just that. Semmelweis died at the young age of 47. He was written up in the New York Review of Books by Richard Horton, who's the editor and the doctor as well, in an argument with Sherwin Nuland, who wrote a book about Semmelweis. And Sherwin Nuland is a very fine writer and a very decent guy, and he characterized Semmelweis as a character, in a sense, and the problem that the medical people didn't believe Semmelweis was that he was a personality problem, turbulence and so forth. Richard Horton, the editor of the New York Review of Books, castigated our friend Dr. Sherwin Nuland, who's at Harvard, saying that's not true. Semmelweis tried very hard to get the physicians to change their approach because he thought the facts do matter. The facts do not. Of course, Semmelweis had an accent. He came from Hungary. We don't mention that. And an accent is very nice, but it didn't persuade anybody at that time. And they went on doing just what they did. Semmelweis died at an early age, 47, and he was demonized in his lifetime and for many years after. The death rate in delivery remained very high, and it remained in that condition for approximately 60 years. So there are a number of deaths that occurred because the physicians would not change their modus operandi in delivery, and the physicians did not wash their hands. It still happens. The New York Times reported recently that 20% of the nurses and so forth do not wash their hands when they're in the delivery room. That may be true of the physicians, I'm not sure. But the point is that a lot of people died, and that incident, episode, and time is forgotten. And why do I mention it? Because I work in an area where I report cures of hopeless voice problems. And